Okay, good morning, everyone. I am your host, Bill Barhydt. Welcome to Money Talks. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's get right to it. So before I get into my talking points, I want to let you all know I've been running this, it's kind of a test. I was in a giving mood a couple of days ago, so I decided I'm going to give away a couple $100s of crypto. Go to my Twitter feed at Bill Barhydt, and you'll actually see some instructions if you want to win a couple $100. Shameless shill. Anyway, good chance to get some extra crypto in your Abra wallet. Check it out. So as I said, good morning. By the way, it is super hot in here. It is so dark outside from the fires. I've got every glaring light on me that I can. So I'm going to do the best I can with it. But we've got, like I said, we've got a lot to cover today, and we don't have a lot of time to cover it in. So I want to talk to you today about some new cryptos that we launched on Abra. We actually launched 18 new cryptocurrencies, so I'm super excited about that. I'm going to get into what's happening with this whole DeFi craze versus CeFi and how we look at that at Abra. I'm going to do a deep dive on Link, one of the new cryptocurrencies, and I'm going to answer all your questions. So you can ask any question you want via the YouTube link, Facebook, Twitter. We've got people online also answering support questions. If you have a support question that you can't get an answer to online, you can send it to support@abra.com. That's support@abra.com, and you'll get a direct answer there. But if you have a more generic question that applies to yourself and everyone, please ask it here. You can also send an email to hello@abra.com, and that'll get filtered to me here as part of the live discussion. So I want to talk about DeFi first, right? So there's this whole kind of great yield hunt going on, which I kind of refer to right now as DeFi versus CeFi. Now, to be clear, CeFi is more like what Abra does, right? Centralized finance. We actually help manage your crypto. We help you generate interest on your crypto. We help you execute trades on your crypto. And you basically trust that Abra knows what it's doing, that the parties that we're lending to generate interest on your crypto are legit. And we do very deep due diligence on those parties, for example. That's in direct contrast to DeFi, where effectively you're not really trusting anyone except the network itself. And that is very promising and very encouraging and kind of like a noble goal. And ultimately, DeFi may win, but I believe that in the next 3 years, maybe even 5 years at least, CeFi services like Abra will continue to rule. There are simply too many things that can and will go wrong with DeFi at any kind of scale. Ryan Selkis, who's the founder of Messari, a fantastic crypto research and information service, did a really good tweet storm on this. He said the DeFi bubble will pop sooner than people expect, and I actually completely agree with him. He said we're nearing an apex of Ponzi schemes, rug pulls, and yield hopping. Yield hopping basically meaning people are moving their ETH or staked tokens from service to service, and ETH fees are going to eat very heavily into the profits for the very small investor. Right. We as an aside, we even saw at Abra a couple of weeks ago where transaction fees were over $10, the gas fees for certain Ethereum transactions, which is what DeFi uses. We'll come back to Ethereum in a moment. ICOs boomed for a while because everyone thought there would be a coordinating utility token for every single industry, right? And Ryan ultimately goes on to say DeFi is just one big pool of capital sloshing around a small group of insiders and mercenaries who will soon run out of victims to fleece. Now, I'm open to changing my mind, but a good rule of thumb is if it looks too good to be true, it is. That's 50% yields and greater fool investing in a nutshell. So anyway, look, like Ryan said, I also love the experimentation going on in DeFi. I ultimately believe that competition is what will raise the bar for all types of financial services. So, effectively any type of financial service that forces the incumbents to rethink how they do business is ultimately good for you and for me. The question is, how are we going to get there? Right now, we're experimenting with other people's money, and that's very dangerous. So this also doesn't take into account that DeFi is currently built on Ethereum, right? And Ethereum simply can't handle any kind of DeFi scale at all right now. Now, when we had peak DeFi a couple of weeks ago, many exchanges had to limit ETH deposits and withdrawals because the gas fees reached $10 to $20 per transaction. Now, you can't reliably transact $15 worth of ETH on chain when the transaction gas costs $20. Now, we're probably 18 months away from Ethereum 2.0 even remotely having a chance to solve this problem. So from my perspective, the smart money crypto will be in CeFi for the next few years. So our team of experts at Abra spend long hours hunting for high quality yield opportunities. No DeFi system will be able to reliably do that and not end up generating a high percentage of losing scams, at least in the short term. Now, eventually that may change, but not now. So I believe for now, the smart money is going to stay with services like Abra. Okay, so now, speaking of Abra, right, this week I'm super excited that we've launched 18 new cryptocurrencies on the platform. Right, the top new cryptos include Chainlink. The crypto is known as Link. We've got Compound or Comp, Algorand, known as Algo, Tazos, VeChain, Steam, Salo, Hashgraph, Wax, BitShares. We've got Bancor. We've got a whole bunch of others. You can see them online. If you don't have the latest version of the Abra app, download the app, and if you go to the portfolio view, you'll be able to add those new cryptos right away, no problem. Okay, so we've got lots of questions already coming in. By the way, we've got people in dozens of countries here. We've got people in, of course, the US, Philippines, Central America. I see Mexico, UK. We'll get to questions in a moment. Keep them coming. We're gonna tee them up. The other thing I should mention, and people ask me about this all the time, as we add new cryptos to the app, can I actually trade between any of the two cryptos that you're adding or that you've already added? And the answer is yes. We never add a cryptocurrency that you can also exchange among any other cryptocurrency. So if I buy Bitcoin and I want to move a portion of that to Wax, or if I have Wax and I want to move a portion of it to Comp, or Comp back to dollars or True USD, can I do that? And the answer is yes. So with all of these new cryptos we added, we now support the ability to trade across 7,000 different crypto pair combinations. And that is a huge number, one of the largest in the business for sure. The other exciting announcement I have for all of you today is that we've just raised interest rates on Bitcoin and Ethereum. So we're now raising the rates to 4.25%, and we're keeping the US dollar rate steady at 10%. Which includes all of our dollar stablecoins. You can wire dollars in, move it to Bitcoin or Ethereum, earn interest there, or you can keep your money as dollars in our stablecoins and earn a steady 10%, which is compounded daily, okay? So I also get this question a lot about how do I, now that you have dollars and interest with stablecoins, which I can obviously compound, it's a fantastic return, how do I do my allocation across different crypto assets? So I'll tell you what I recommend. Now, I don't give investment advice, I just give my opinion, right? And so I'll tell you what I'm doing, and you can consider for yourself and do your own homework at what to do. But I recommend a portfolio allocation for me of no more than 5 to 10% of my personal assets in Bitcoin and no more than 5% of personal assets in other cryptos. And that number goes up and down depending upon what's going on. That's a little bit more actively traded, whereas the Bitcoin piece, it just sits there, earns interest, and I don't worry about it. So I also recommend a portfolio allocation of no more than 15 to 20% of personal assets into US dollars in the Abra interest account. Now that's today. Now my opinion on that may change. Those interest rates will go up and down over time versus the kind of traditional investing market. Again, that's my opinion. I don't give investing advice. I just give my opinion. So please do your own homework and invest wisely. If you go online, there's actually an interest calculator on Abra.com, which will show you what kind of interest you'll earn based upon different deposited amounts, and you can see what you'll earn over time. So one of the cryptocurrencies that we added this week is called Link, and it's from an organization or nonprofit called Link Chain. I want to do a deep dive this week on Link, and in following weeks, I'll do a deep dive on other of the cryptos that we've added and give you my perspective on what those projects mean. So to understand Link, right? First, we need to understand the idea of an oracle in a smart contract. So let's say we have a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain, and it represents a call option. A call option basically gives you the right to buy a stock at a certain price, even if the price of the stock has gone up. So you're basically making a potentially leveraged bet that the price of the stock or the underlying asset will go up. So let's say we have a call option on Ethereum expiring on September 30th at a strike price of $600 per ETH. So this means that if the price of Ethereum is above 600 at expiration on September 30th, then the holder of the call option can buy Ethereum for $600 per ETH and actually pocket the difference by selling the underlying asset. So how does this smart contract representing this call option actually know what the price of ETH is in order to determine what to do, right? So this is a big problem since cryptocurrencies have no inherent knowledge of the real world. So I kind of liken this to being inside the Matrix, if you remember the movie from the 90s, versus being outside the Matrix. In the movie, if you're outside the Matrix, you could get inside by hacking into the Matrix via a hardline. Now, in crypto, smart contracts, these hardlines are actually represented by what we call oracles. Oracles tell computer programs or smart contracts information about the real world that they otherwise would not know, but they need to know. Okay, so oracles are a big problem in crypto, smart contracts, because they often represent a weak link in a decentralized system. So think about it. If my oracle has an off switch, so does my smart contract. In other words, if I'm getting the price of the dollar versus Ethereum in my call option from an exchange, and that exchange can be shut off, what happens if I lose that price feed in my smart contract? I don't know what the contract is worth. So as I've said many times in the past, I'm not yet convinced that this oracle problem is completely solvable. We'll see. But the good news is that many companies are trying to solve this problem. One such company is called Chainlink. Chainlink, in their own words, provides reliable, tamper-proof inputs and outputs for smart contracts on any blockchain. The inputs would be things like the pricing details in my example above, right? Outputs are usually payments. Where do I send the money that I made when the contract expires? So Chainlink is a decentralized network of nodes that provide data and information and effectively act like a big decentralized oracle system. So naturally, and somewhat ironically, the first solution they've chosen to tackle with this decentralized oracle network is DeFi. This makes sense, and I actually hope it works in practice. So that brings me back to Link itself. So Link is the digital asset or token that is used to pay for services on the Chainlink network. So will Link be worth anything? Well, almost all DeFi applications require some sort of data price feed. As I said, they have no way of integrating with the real world outside of using these oracle-based systems. So a robust, preferably decentralized if possible, oracle is essential to the prosperity and security of most of these DeFi apps. So since Chainlink is now the best known player in this space, ironically partially because of their token, I believe it could end up being a big winner in the DeFi space. Time will tell, invest wisely, okay? So that's it for the initial talking points. I've got some other things I want to talk about in regards to DeFi and regulation. We'll come back to that. I want to take a break there and answer some questions. The first thing I would remind you, hey, if you do me a favor, if you're watching via YouTube, there's a subscribe button in the video at the bottom. Press that button. We started this from 0 a few weeks ago, and we're up to thousands of subscribers. We get a few thousand people watching the video after the broadcast, and our goal is to get this up to 100,000 viewers as quickly as possible, and we need your support to do that, okay? So click that subscribe button and show us that you want us to keep doing these videos. All right. So let me answer some Abra-specific questions. If you have questions about any of the new cryptos, I'll try to answer those. There's so many, I can't answer every detailed question about the tech, but I'll do the best I can. All right, so let's see. We've got a couple of users here. A user from India, good morning, asks, can I actually wire money from India into Abra? So Indian banks are not yet supported, but as I mentioned last week, stay tuned. We are working on a solution that will allow you to wire money into Abra from anywhere in the world. If you are in a non-US country and you want to deposit money into Abra, either crypto stable coins or other cryptocurrencies, you can simply buy them in your local market and then transfer them into Abra. So for example, in India, you can use a service like Paxful to deposit crypto into Abra. Okay, so let's see, we've got some other questions here. Just looking down at my laptop. What guarantees do I have that my investment is 100% safe in your wallet? That's from Roberto. Roberto, good question. So a couple of things, right? So we do very high grade custody via partners. I've mentioned this in the past as well. If you, by the way, you can go to our FAQs either in the app or online, and we have more detail on this. But let me talk about custody for a second. So on the trading side, we work with an exchange partner who manages custody there. They've never been hacked. And of course, on the interest account side, we work with a trust bank known as Prime Trust. And their custody technology has also, to my knowledge, never even been close to hacked. We also use cold storage for a piece of the crypto and are looking to do more of that in the future. And then when we lend in order to generate yield, we're also often getting collateral back on those loans, which goes into the same custodied solution. So we feel very confident in our custody model. And also in our lending model in order to generate yield. We run an investment committee that does very deep due diligence on all partners. Many of these partners are much larger companies than Abra, but we still do due diligence on them. And we actually don't accept all partners that want to do business with us unless they pass that due diligence process. With what guarantees do I have that I will be able to withdraw 100% of my investment and profits without restriction and without limits? That's another good question from Roberto. Roberto, we run through regulated financial entities, right? So Prime Trust is a bank trust. Our exchange partner is a licensed money transmitter where they need to be. And we operate under their licenses in many instances, and they have to basically follow certain laws and rules. And one of them is via our terms of service. We can't simply represent that we're going to make withdrawals available and then not do it, right? So the regulators would come after them, and by extension, after us. And so that's one protection that CeFi gives you versus the DeFi model, which today is obviously subject to a lot of scams and hacking. All right. I believe the two will, as I said, merge over time, but this model that Abra is talking about, I think, has a lot of advantages in the short term. Okay, thank you for the questions, Roberto. Let's move on to a couple more. Let's see. CryptoCat says, why don't we have VeChain or Loopring for USA on Abra? When is it coming? Excellent question. So as I mentioned, on the trading side of the trading accounts, we work with third-party exchanges / custody partners. We can only add cryptocurrencies to the Abra app that they support for custody. And the reason that we were able to add those 18 currencies is, one, they were on the list of dozens that we're tracking, and more importantly, they're also supported by our exchange partners. Now, in this particular case, VeChain, for example, is not yet available with them in the US. As soon as they make VeChain available in the US, we will bring it to you for Abra in the US as well. So stay tuned for that. We don't have any insights as to when they would do that. I suspect it'll happen in reasonable order, but yeah. So let's see. Can Bill do a live demonstration on the wallet recovery, please? This is from Leonardo. Sure, I'd be happy to. This is one of the most important things you can do to protect your money. So I'm going to bring up our demo app here with our demo funds. So you see in the app here, I've got some money in my trading account, some money in the interest account. Now on the upper left here, there's a little menu, right? So if I click on that menu in the upper left, I see I have profile, display currency. If I scroll down to the fourth item, it says wallet security, okay? And I can press view recovery phrase. That's going to give me a phrase that I write down and verify. Right? And all of you should have done that already. And if you haven't, please do that immediately after the show. And that gives you protection. Abra has no access to it. You should never share it with a third party. If you lose your phone, if you get a new phone, if you migrate from Android to iPhone or iPhone to Android, whatever, you can reinstall Abra, type in that recovery phrase, right? And your wallet will be recreated. I'm not going to do it for you here now because I need the app for the demo, and I don't want all of you typing in my recovery phrase on your phone here from my demo account because I need these demo funds. So anyway, that's how it works. It's super simple. When you reinstall Abra and you run the app for the first time, it will ask you if you want to recover from a prior wallet, and you click yes, then you'll be able to type in that recovery phrase immediately. And you can even change your phone number at that point, but the old wallet will be mapped to your new wallet, okay? So super simple. Hope that answers that question. Let's see, we've got a bunch more here. Wow, okay, questions coming in fast and furious. One user asks, can Abra weather the next bear market? Can you talk about it? So Abra itself is not really subject to, from the trials and tribulations of up and down markets. From a revenue perspective, we are a little, because some of our revenue comes in, if the price of Bitcoin is very high and people are doing lots of transactions, Abra may make a little bit more money. But honestly, we've tried to structure our business in a way, and we also try to keep our expenses as a company very, very low, in order to not have to basically charge high fees. I think we're in a pretty good position. So if you think about it, right? So we launched this service like almost at the peak of crypto in 2017, early 2018, and immediately crypto tanked, right? I think it got down to the 3,000s, and Abra survived. We're still here, okay? And it was not fun when Bitcoin traded down to 3,500 as not just as a CEO of Abra, but also as somebody who holds a lot of Bitcoin. But I also know deep down that one, it may happen again, and two, this is a long-term game, and I believe that Bitcoin is headed for 100,000. Again, it's my personal advice. It's not investment advice, but I believe that's where it's going. So long-winded answer, I would say two things. One, we run the company very well. We keep expenses low in order to not only provide the lowest possible fees to you, but to guarantee that Abra has a good, viable future. And two, we try to make sure that our business itself isn't really subject to the whims of the prices of the cryptocurrencies. And I think we've done a reasonable job at that. So very fair question. Thanks for that. Mark asks, will the Abra wallet support staking Tazos and Algorand? Excellent question. So I can't give you a timeline for that, but I can tell you that it's something that we are looking at, and it's something that I definitely want to do. When we do it, it would be available via the interest account. So on here, you would simply see Algorand and Tazos' options when we do it. And we'll certainly give you a heads up as to when that's coming, but stay tuned for that. When will I be able to make Cardano transactions again? This is from Rodmar in Guatemala, who says he's a very happy Abra wallet user. Thanks for that. So we are waiting for our exchange partner to finish their Shelly upgrade for the Cardano system. As soon as they finish that upgrade, we will bring it to you, and you'll be able to process transactions in Cardano again. So as a Cardano holder and user, I am looking forward to that myself. All right, so Frank asks, how long does the application process take with Prime Trust? So Frank, the answer is it depends. So a couple of things. When you go into interest account for the first time, like you see here on my screen, if you haven't used it before, it will ask you to upload an ID. That's actually meant for Prime Trust, not for Abra, who's again the trust bank that we use to manage those deposits. They validate the ID. Now, normally that should happen in minutes because the ID is automatically validated via computer software, and you should be good to go. If there's a problem, for example, the ID image was blurry or you were shining light on it, it may have to go into manual processing, and it could take minutes or hours or up to a day or so. We've gotten pretty good with our partner at getting that time way down. The best thing you can do for yourself is upload a very clear picture, make sure the information you type in is correct, and it should, for the vast majority of our users, be a completely automated, near instant process. And for everyone else, if there's an issue, it shouldn't take more than a day or so. Okay. So let's see. Lots of questions coming in here. Jerry asks, where does Abra store customers' Bitcoin? So Jerry, as I mentioned before, there are two types of accounts here, right? I'm in the interest account, and then there's the trading account. The answer is different in both cases. In the case of the trading account, the funds are stored in custody with our trading exchange partners. And in the case of the interest account, the funds are custodied with Prime Trust, our legal bank custodian partner. And you can actually move funds yourself between the two accounts. I can withdraw funds from my interest account back to trading and vice versa. And that changes where the funds are custodied. Okay, let's see. Tom says, I am an American living in the Philippines. Interesting. I love your wallet. Thank you. Why can I not withdraw to my U.S. bank simply because I have a Philippine mobile? So Tom, that's something that we are going to be offering if it's not already turned on. Send an email to support and let them know that you want that. And when it's available, they will let you know. Okay, so that is something that we do get requests for. Should be doable, and the team will turn on that feature for you. Generally, if you're in a country outside the U.S. and we don't turn on the U.S. specific features for you because it's confusing to a lot of users, and vice versa. For example, we have Philippine specific features that we don't turn on in the U.S., for example, to deposit cash in Manila, for example, which would be confusing to U.S. users. And so we don't show those features here either. But you can always send an email to support, and if it's possible to turn a feature on, depending upon where you live, the team will do that for you. Okay. Let's see. Lots more questions here. You guys always have the best questions. So let's see. Can you explain how market volatility helps Abra earn more when lending to institutions? This is from an anonymous user. So volatility itself doesn't help Abra earn more. It's more a function of supply and demand. So let me give you an example, right? So right now, there is huge demand from large institutional borrowers for US dollars. Now, the good news is most of that will be collateralized either via large cash position on a balance sheet or by them depositing cryptocurrency with Abra. And that's that's not necessarily dependent upon volatility in crypto. But the more demand, the higher the rates they pay, which we then pass on to you. As I've said in the past, the vast majority of the interest income generated on deposits goes back to the consumer, well over 80% of it. Okay, so again, it's really a function of demand. So the reason that we get, for example, 4.25% or can pay 4.25% for Bitcoin and Ethereum is based upon a certain demand level for those cryptocurrencies. Okay, so hope that explains that. Let's see, lots more questions. Let me pick another one here. Another question from India. I think we answered that already about the banks. So I've been having issues with my crypto deposit. It's reaching my account a few hours after it's been confirmed by the blockchain. So this is from JD Mark. So JD, I think that a lot of that has to do right now with Ethereum. Especially like last week and the week before, the Ethereum network was being bogged down by all of these new DeFi exchanges. Remember, every one of those transactions is on chain on those DeFi exchanges. Whereas when you're using an exchange like Abra or Coinbase or something like that, those exchanges are off chain, so they don't have a settlement time. But if you're moving money or doing a trade on a DeFi exchange, it's completely on chain. And that volume exploded to the point where consumers were waiting, the fees went through the roof, and as a result, the way our partner deposits funds into your wallet in the Abra system was taking a very long time, and in some cases, hours. And so, I think for now that because the craziness has died down, you shouldn't see those delays. Generally, those delays have nothing to do with Abra and have more to do with what's happening in the network. Okay, hope that makes sense. Let's see, a lot more questions. So here's a question. I think I'm going to say the name right. I apologize if I bungle it here. Tesfaye asks, how come you don't have a shorting feature for active traders and investors that need to hedge or make money from the volatile crypto market? Have you considered it, or why not? Et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's a great question. The reason, there's a few reasons. The biggest reason is that our exchange partners don't easily make that feature available to us yet. So there's a whole bunch of more advanced order types that we're constantly looking at. Our number one priority for Abra is simplicity, by far, right? When we ask all of you, and we do ask all of you a lot, what you like the best about Abra, the two answers I get: simplicity and breadth of features. Now, those two are often at odds at each other, right? The more features we add, the more complex things often get. That having been said, we look at advanced order types all the time. There are some things that we are going to add in the future. Shorting is a complex one. For those of you who aren't clear what Tesfaye is asking, shorting basically is a bet against the price going up. Meaning, let's say I want to short Ethereum. I'm actually making a bet that the price of Ethereum will go down. And if the price goes down, I actually make money. And if the price goes up, I lose money. So it's the opposite of going long. Again, there are also some legal reasons for that. Shorting has a different kind of legal structure necessarily than just going long. But it is something like vis-a-vis these more complex order types that we've been looking at. We don't have anything to announce or any specific time frame. But the more requests we get and understand the demand for these more complicated and more sophisticated features, the more we can take them into account. There's a lot of things that I would use if we had it, but again, we always err on the side of simplicity for our users. Okay, here's an interesting question. Jefferson asks, I would love to hear your thoughts on how important Lightning development is to the industry. When is Lightning coming for Abra? And I got a related question on Twitter that I'll come to after that around Litecoin. So look, this is a tough one. So Lightning is what we call a second layer technology. Let me explain what that means. Bitcoin itself is the settlement protocol using the blockchain. Proof of work is what we call and the mempool is what we call a first layer technology, right? All those transactions happen on chain. If you're using an exchange, you're completely offline. You're not actually touching the blockchain itself until you withdraw the crypto from the exchange into either another wallet or a hardware wallet, et cetera, et cetera. The problem with doing those transactions on chain is that the block size is limited to a certain number of transactions, and it can't go beyond that without actually a physical change to how Bitcoin works. To solve that problem, companies are trying to develop these so-called second layer technologies. Second layer technologies like Lightning, in theory, look a little bit like Visa versus like central banks, right? Visa can scale infinitely versus everybody interacting with the central bank. And so Lightning, in theory, is a fantastic idea. The challenge is it's extremely complicated. It uses a whole bunch of smart contract or multi-signature technology trickery. It requires a whole bunch of parties to get involved in the transaction. Those parties have to park Bitcoin inside smart contracts, effectively locking those funds up. The promise is there. I think that Bitcoin won't scale without these second layer technologies, which is obviously essential to Bitcoin's future. But it's very early. I hope it works. I believe it can work, but there's still a lot of work to be done. But there's some people way smarter than me working on this, and I'm highly encouraged by the work they're doing, but it's very early. And look, it's very early across all of crypto land, and we're all here because we believe in the promise of where it's going. But, it's like I said, it's early and we're not quite there yet. So I had another question earlier about fungibility of Litecoin. Litecoin is an early fork of Bitcoin that is also supported on the Abra network. And Bitcoin and Litecoin all kind of suffer from the same issue of what we call fungibility. What is fungibility? Fungibility is basically the idea that any Bitcoin that I hold is more or less interoperable with any Bitcoin that you hold. Now, on the surface, that may seem obvious, meaning one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, but it's not necessarily true. But because all Bitcoin or Litecoin transactions are published on a public blockchain, in theory, I know historically what address those transactions are coming from and what address transactions are going to. So if for whatever reason I decide I don't like some address, I can actually block that address from doing transactions if I'm on an exchange, for example. So that limits the fungibility of Bitcoin, or in this case, Litecoin. So people have looked at new technologies, like Monero, for example, uses technologies that make Monero more fungible by hiding certain information so that you can't discern where the money is going from or going to. Zcash does this as well. And people are having a debate as to whether Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies should also add more of these fungibility features. I actually believe that they should. I don't think that the average public should be making decisions about the value of a Bitcoin based upon where that Bitcoin has been held in the past, right? We don't think about dollar bills that way. And the reality is it's incredible when you actually look at the chemicals on a dollar bill where it's been. Leave that aside for another day. But I believe that Bitcoin, just like dollars, should be completely fungible. Now, the thing I love about Litecoin is that it adopts new technology much faster than Bitcoin, and it acts as a great test bed for what Bitcoin should be doing in the future. Some people liken Litecoin to silver to Bitcoin's gold. That's fine as an analogy, but to me, what's more interesting is the competition from a technology perspective. And I always make this point that it's the competition that's going to bring the entire crypto space forward. So the fact that Litecoin is willing to adopt these technologies faster, I think is not only great for Litecoin, but great for the entire crypto space. And so I hope that happens, and I hope it happens in a way that also adds a lot more scalability to Litecoin. So another user asks, on the other hand, what are non-fungible tokens, and will Abra support them? Okay, so non-fungible tokens, NFTs, are often known as crypto collectibles, depending upon how they're used. Probably the most famous example of that is the crypto kitties that you may have seen a few years ago during the last kind of Ethereum craze. So NFT, non-fungible token, basically means that any two versions of a token created using the same system are different. So my crypto kitty that I'm collecting would be different from yours. My baseball trading card would be different from yours. And often they're referred to as crypto collectibles because you can limit the number of any one type of token, hence the phrase non-fungible, right? They're not the same. So non-fungible tokens are complicated from a technology perspective. The idea is fascinating, right? It also exposes a lot of the scalability issues inherent with Ethereum that we've talked about. If you know anything about what happened with CryptoKitties way back when, you'll recognize or remember that they also exposed a lot of those scalability issues. So Abra does not support NFTs today. We don't see huge demand yet. I expect that the demand for NFTs will explode in the future. I think there will be a market for digital collectibles in gaming in particular. That's something, for example, that I believe Wax is working on, one of the cryptos we just recently added. And there are lots more companies doing this. I think there have been announcements from several of the sports leagues in the US, Major League Baseball, the NBA, all getting into various forms of NFTs. So as NFTs become more popular and we see the demand, we'll definitely look at adding them. It's very early in that space, and it's not something that we're seeing huge demand for the type of investors that Abra is focused on. I got a request here. Hey, what's going on with Stellar? And then another user asks, what's going on with Abra and Stellar? Are you going to do an interview with Jed? Those of you who don't know, Jed is the founder of both Stellar and Ripple. It would be great to have Jed on the show. I agree. We actually did an interview with Danelle Dixon, who's the CEO of the Stellar Foundation. If you go to our podcast, the Abra Money 3.0 podcast, which I don't know if it's on YouTube, but it's certainly on the Apple and Google Play Store and their podcast apps. You can find my interview with Danelle. I think that's a great idea in terms of getting Jed on, and I'll look to do that in the future. Jed's super busy, doesn't do many interviews, but hopefully he would do us a favor and come on the show. So we've got a lot more questions here. I see that our support team is answering questions online, so that's great. I'm not going to repeat user-specific support questions, so just keep those questions coming. There's a couple of other things I want to talk about. Let me answer one more question here, and then I will get back to your questions. I want to find a new question that I haven't already answered. We're getting some repeats here. We talked about shorting. Talked about Prime Trust. Again, another user asking how long those applications take. Again, for people who upload IDs, that are crystal clear, type in information correctly, you should get near real-time response. For everyone else, it should be anywhere from an hour to a day or so. I've gotten a couple of requests here to show how to actually withdraw money from the interest account, in addition to depositing money into the interest account. Okay, so let me show that. So here I am in the interest account. Let me go back to my demo screen here so you can all see it. There we go. So you see here my interest account. I'm going to click on PAX, which is the amount you see here at the top. Now, you notice that there's an add button. Where's the withdraw button? So on the top right, you see the three dots. I'm going to click on those three dots and click on it again. And you see at the bottom, it says transfer funds to trading PAX. That basically means I can move the funds out of the interest account back to the trading account. I can use them for trading. From there, I can withdraw them to my bank, for example, right? So I click on that, transfer funds. I can type in the amount. I can click on transfer the entire balance. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to click the back button to get out of here. That's how you transfer funds out. To deposit funds, let's say I want to deposit Tether into my account. I would click on, see at the bottom, you see interest earning USDT. So I'll click on that. I can click on add USDT, and I have $25 in my USDT trading account, and I'm going to deposit $10 into my USDT interest account. So I type in 10, click review, click confirm. I've now added $10 back into my USDT account, and they will soon show up as available here. Let me go back into my trading. So, sorry about that. Doing too many things at once. Okay, so I go back into my trading account, and I see that I have $10 earning interest, and soon those funds will be available once they settle from my trading account into my interest-bearing account. Okay, so that's how that works. Let's see what else. All right, so I'm going to come back to some more questions. We've got a few more minutes. I also wanted to talk to you about some of the things that I think are important to understand in terms of where this is all going in terms of DeFi versus CeFi, and one of the points that people are constantly asking me about and bringing up online, which is regulation. One of the most common questions that I get from people who are either new to Bitcoin, new to crypto, looking at DeFi versus CeFi is, well, what are regulators going to do? Why haven't regulators simply shut down Bitcoin? So I actually believe that it is impossible at this point for regulators to shut down Bitcoin. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Okay, so one of the best articles that I've ever seen on this is from this guy, Aiken Hernandez. He goes by Beauty on Twitter. He's a bit of an anarchist. I find his Twitter feed very entertaining. I don't always agree, but this is one of the best articles that anybody who's interested in cryptocurrency can read. Right? And I'll ask my team to post the link here. But it's basically if you search for why America can't regulate Bitcoin, you'll find this one first. So effectively, the answer is very simple, right? The American Constitution was set up explicitly, right, to enable any form of free speech in a way that cannot be encumbered by government or regulators or anything else. Okay, And he goes on to explain that the technology of Bitcoin, ultimately at its core, it's just software. And the Supreme Court in the United States has made very clear time after time after time that the application of the First Amendment in America applies to consumer-generated software. It also protects developers. Now, if you're using software to launder money, you may not get arrested for writing software, but you may get arrested for laundering money. So there's a distinction there, right? Meaning intent and purpose is often different from the existing of speech. In other words, yelling fire in a movie theater, in and of itself, saying the word fire or writing the word fire online isn't illegal because we have First Amendment protections in the United States, but your intent of causing harm to other people could potentially be illegal, right? So there's a distinction there, and he also makes that clear here. But again, I think that there's, and this is where DeFi ultimately I think becomes interesting, right? It eliminates some of those last kind of regulator-centric off switches that we have into financial services. And if it works, it will be impossible for bad actors, right? And I'm going to put the U.S. government here in the good actor camp. And I know many of you disagree with that, but just give us the benefit of the doubt here. Many of the international bad actors are going to have an impossible time turning off these DeFi systems because there is no central off switch. But even many of the good actors, right, who basically will get pressured by banks who have the most to lose, will be unable to turn off these systems at scale because our Constitution doesn't allow them to do so. And that's really the promise of Bitcoin and some of these decentralized solutions. Now, companies like Abra have a big role to play in bringing those solutions to you over time. And you'll see our user experience, which is highly centralized, merge with more and more decentralized services as we go. So anyway, I wanted to make that point because it's one of the most common questions that I get, and I highly recommend this article from Aiken on why America can't regulate Bitcoin, which I think really extends to most new decentralized services that I see out there. Okay, so we've got some more questions coming in, and let's see. I got another question here to demo. Can you show us how to exchange? Let's see. Can you show us how to exchange dollars for Bitcoin and back and forth? Okay, so I'm going to go back to my demo account here. Okay, here you see I'm back in my trading account, which is the tab on the left. I can move between them, click on interest, click on trading. Fantastic. So now if I want to buy some Bitcoin, you see that I have $200 in change in my TrueUSD account, and I have $15 in my Tether wallet. At the bottom of the screen, you see here, I'm using my demo phone. I've got this button, exchange. So I'm going to click on the exchange button at the bottom. I choose which asset I want to exchange from. In this case, I'm going to sell TrueUSD, and I'm going to use it to buy. I'm going to click on Bitcoin. All right, so I'm going to type in 25. Let's say I want to buy $25 worth of Bitcoin. Press review. Shows me the price that I'm paying. I press confirm. And voila, I've now exchanged TrueUSD in this case for Bitcoin. And the transaction should be available in a couple of minutes, meaning it should have settled on my phone in a couple of minutes, okay? So it's that simple. Now, if I want to do the other way, if I want to exchange Bitcoin back to TrueUSD, in this case, I have to wait for the Bitcoin that I just bought to settle on my phone. I simply, it has settled now, right? So the price is going down a tiny bit. So I'm going to basically press that exchange button again. I'm going to exchange Bitcoin, I press the Bitcoin, and I'm going to, let's say I want to move some back to Tether. So now I want to basically, let's say I want to exchange let's say half. So I'm going to go 0.0017. I can't do math anymore. So let's say 115. And I'm going to exchange that Bitcoin, half of that Bitcoin I just bought back to my Tether wallet. Okay. So I'm going to press review. And I see the price, I press confirm, and I've now taken half of that Bitcoin and moved it back to my Tether wallet, okay? So that's how you do the exchange function within Abra on the trading account. Victor asks here, I really enjoy these talks. What is the interest on interest paying? What is the risk, on interest paying true USD accounts? Where is the volatility? Apologies if this was already covered. So Victor, I'll go back to the interest account here. So when you deposit funds into the interest account, you can see on the right-hand side, for example, on dollars, we're paying 10%. On crypto, we're paying 4.25%. These rates basically are a function of how our investment team is lending crypto to our institutional investment partners. And I've talked about this many times. There is a link in the latest news article to an explanation of how we generate that interest income. You're not taking volatility risk on terms of the interest. If you're holding Bitcoin and Ether, you're still taking price risk on the Bitcoin and Ether. So for example, if I hold here 4.5 Bitcoin in my interest account and the price of Bitcoin goes up, not only do I get the interest, but the dollar value of my Bitcoin is going up at the same time. And same if the price goes down. Okay, so you're only getting interest paid in Bitcoin for a Bitcoin deposit. I mean, hopefully that's clear. And I'm getting interest paid in Ethereum for an Ethereum deposit. Okay, so that's that. I think I just lost the video, and let's see here. Hopefully we can get it back. So if not, we'll just do audio for a few minutes. I think you're looking at me on a frozen screen. I apologize for that. Let's see here. I don't know. I think we have lost the video. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to use a lower quality video for the rest of the last few minutes here. I don't know what happened. Apologies. So the lighting is not going to be as good because I'm using the computer, but that's fine. All right. So a couple more questions here before we wrap up. And Roman also makes a suggestion. Can we add an education and news tab to the app? And this is where you can also post all the Abra videos for review. Roman, that's a fantastic question, fantastic suggestion. We've actually talked about that, and it's something that we'd love to do, and hopefully we can get to that soon. So look for that in the future. Let's see. I've got a lot more questions here. And when will Cardano be turned back on? As I mentioned, we're waiting for the upgrade to be finished by our exchange partner, and then you'll be able to do deposits and withdrawals from Cardano again. Let's see. Can we have a calculator in the Abra app? That would be really useful to know how much altcoins to add. So Gabriel, thanks for that question. We've talked about adding, we get this request a lot, meaning can I use dollars or pesos or euros on altcoin transactions to basically know in advance how much I'm trading. The challenge there is that we support 50 fiat currencies. So it's something that we haven't quite figured out how to do yet, but hopefully we will. Anyway, so look for that in the future, but it's definitely something. I know you just saw me transfer out of Bitcoin. I had to do the math in my head. Luckily, I'm good at math, so I was able to do that. But I know that some of you, you would prefer to have a calculator to be able to determine, for example, if I'm exchanging Bitcoin back to dollars, what the dollar equivalent is in advance. So I totally get that. So let's see. So far, so good. Let me take one more question here for today and then wrap it up. Let's see. Can you talk about the limits for wires, and what is the best way to deposit money into the Abra app? Thanks, Mike. That's a great question coming from Twitter. So yeah, a few things. Let me go into the demo here. This is a US specific demo. If you're outside the US, it will look a little different. At the bottom, you see add money, right? So I'm going to click on the add money button, and you see that there's bank ACH transfer, bank wire transfer, deposit, Visa, MasterCard, et cetera, et cetera. Bank ACH is specific to the US. That's where I'm actually logging in to my bank. And the limits there are $4,000 a day if you're on a level 2. and I think 2,000. I may have it backwards if you're on level 1. And then if you want to do a bank wire, there are very high limits. Actually, we're about to change this so that there are no limits on bank wires, not only from the US, but soon anywhere in the world. So stay tuned for that. I'll have more to say about that next week. But bank wire is generally what you want to do if you're using the interest account like I do to put like a big portion of my money to earn 10% in dollars. You're going to want to wire that money in. Or if you happen to have stable coins such as Tether for any other reason, you can deposit the Tether directly into Abra by clicking on Deposit Cryptocurrency. I'm going to click on that here, Deposit Cryptocurrency. Now I can scroll down to click on Tether. You see there's Tether. I'm going to click on Tether and click on I agree. Now I simply copy this Tether address, or I can take a picture of the QR code from another app, and I can deposit Tether into Abra and use that as my US dollars as well. And we get a lot of people that do that. But the best way to deposit money, large amounts from your bank account, will be bank wire. And as I said, that's a feature that we've been actively working on improving with a lot of resources at Abra. And you'll see new features there turned on in the next few days. Okay. I'll take one more question. We're going on 10 o'clock. How often is interest added and the interest earned compounded? And what actual interest rate does that result in, say, for True USD at 10%? That's a good question. I don't know offhand what the affected compound rate is. It is earned daily, although we do pay it weekly. Generally, we pay interest on Monday mornings. It's like I've said in the past, I love Monday mornings because I get a bunch of push messages into my Abra app that I have received interest payments. And if you use the interest product, you know what I mean. It's basically you're getting push messages that you have free money into the app, which is always cool. I don't know what the effective rate is when you look at the compounding, but it'll obviously be a little bit higher than that. And yeah, so it's added weekly, and you can, like I said, withdraw anytime. Most withdrawals are processed the same day. Very high amounts, it might take a few days or up to a week. Okay. Very simple. Okay, so let's stop there. Let's call it. It's 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for your support. Hey, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it's September 11th. As a native New Yorker, I have to do a shout out to all my friends and family in New York. This is one of those days. It's always a little bit somber, especially with the craziness here. It's dark outside at 10 a.m. because of all the fires in California. It's a crazy time. But you know, what can I say? It's a special day for some of us as we remember a lot of friends and family who are firemen and police in the New York and New Jersey area. And we have a lot of respect for what you guys do. Thank you for those efforts. And yeah, good luck everyone in California. Please stay inside. The air quality here is terrible right now. And so hopefully it will get better soon. All right, so another great show. Thank you so much for your support in making this happen. Don't forget to press the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. We will see you next week on Money Talks. Take care, everyone.